Teachers living with HIV and AIDS have been subjected to unfair treatment at the hands of colleagues in the workplace. This is contained in a study conducted by the University of Johannesburg. Now, many believe South Africa has made inroads when it comes to stigmatization of people living with the virus, but research indicates that schools are still sites of stigma. So for more on this, I'm joined in studio now by South African Democratic Teachers Union's Mungwena, Maluleke. Thank you so much for joining us on MNT this morning. Now, let's talk a little bit about this finding that was made. It's absolutely alarming that there's still stigma and stigmatization of anybody living with HIV or AIDS, for that matter, in 2019. And it's happening within the teaching fraternity. Why is that?
Well, first, let me thank you for having us, but also to thank the researchers, indeed, for helping us to show us that the stigma is still there in the workplaces, because, indeed, we thought that we have made a breakthrough. We also thought that our work that we've been doing with the teachers in terms of assisting ourselves to understand the impact of HIV and AIDS in education has made us to begin to understand, but also appreciate that it's just any other disease. And therefore, we are also going to be asking ourselves, why is it happening after so many years that we've been dealing with this particular issue? But the study also shows that it is an international problem, so it's a global problem, where the teachers who are living with HIV are being labeled. And sometimes they are using physical labels, by they're looking at a person and make a judgment on that particular thing. And therefore, we don't think that is the right way to do. And we don't think that it is helping the education system, because teachers by themselves, they're nation builders, and therefore they have got to be appreciating and tolerating and understanding.
Well, they need to be educated. So for the mere fact that you're an educator means there's an assumption that there's some level of education behind you. And if you're the one that is propagating any form of stigma, that says something about the level of education. But what we basically need to avoid, Mungwena, is perhaps maybe our weakness is always comparing ourselves to international standards. Just because it is happening in a different country does not make it okay for it to be happening in this specific country. So let's take South Africa's context, because this is where we're dealing with it. How then do we start? What do you do at this point? Do you start re-educating teachers, the very same educators who are supposed to be educated? How do you start mitigating the situation?
Well, maybe we need to understand the context under which we work. A school is based in a society. And clearly, if in a society there is a particular conception about a particular disease, it is bound to affect even those that are educated. And therefore, it's not because of the international standards. So I believe that how HIV and AIDS has been conceptualized in our country has been a problem. How we use particular terminologies is a problem. And how the society believes in stigmatizing people on different issues is a problem. And therefore, I agree with you that if the teachers themselves, because they are educated, if they can take the fight and make sure that that does not happen in our schools, that will be able to win the war against stigmatization. We have done a lot of work through our program as an organization to ensure that teachers living with HIV are not forced to disclose, and therefore they have got to work under conditions that are very conducive for themselves, and therefore they are being part of the teaching profession, part of the union. So as a union, we have got a track record where we have been able to provide treatment, but also provided counseling and everything. We have caregivers in schools as a union who have been taking care of our teachers, and therefore
then how do
we
you
are
then
alarmed.
protect those teachers that let's say that a teacher, a specific teacher, decides that I'm going to disclose for the sake of transparency, and for my sake, they decide that they're going to disclose, and then all of a sudden you have the other teachers, because it's a school, as you say, it's an environment, right? The other teachers start labeling them, or not wanting to shake their hands, or not wanting to use the same cup as them. And then there's issues of how then do you as a union protect that very said teacher from this discrimination that they're facing just because they have a virus?
Well, the track record that we have is that some of our members have disclosed, and therefore they have been the ones that have been ambassadors in order to empower other teachers to understand that this is just any other disease, and we have seen how they've been treated positively and so forth.
But then how do you protect them? How do you protect them? How do you protect a teacher from being discriminated against from other teachers, and as you were mentioning, within specific environments in societies which may still be, should I say, ignorant in their thinking?
Yeah, well, I think the teachers have got to be given, one, the support. Secondly is that we need to make sure that there is awareness amongst all who are in the schools, including the learners and the management, and therefore we can say the principal has to take responsibility in ensuring that that teacher is not discriminated. If there is evidence of discrimination, and therefore there must be action, but also not only action, but also proper education, that those who are still locked in this belief that HIV/AIDS is not a disease like any other disease, like cancer, like TB and anything, therefore needs to be taken through a particular program to ensure that they change their behavior, they change their attitudes towards other people, because I believe...
Can you suspend a teacher for being discriminatory against others?
Well, there are rules that deal with those type of things, because it is a very serious offense to discriminate. And therefore, in this country, laws are against any discrimination. So I would imagine a situation where teachers are discriminated in terms of the law. I have not had a situation of that nature. I have not dealt with any case of that nature. I would know that, yes, psychologically, teachers are not being treated the way they're supposed to be treated by others, but it is not widespread. It is something that, if you check the report, that there are almost about 8 people have been interviewed, and therefore it's a part of denial, or where the people themselves are saying, if I were to be like this, people are looking at me and therefore they're discriminating me, or I have to be marginalized because I'm like this. So we need to deal with those particulars, including those who are living with HIV, because sometimes if they have not accepted and they are in denial, they will also look at other people and say, hey, they're saying something about me, and we need to deal with
those
issues.
It's a two-way street when it comes to this one. We have to leave our conversation there, but thanks all for joining us this morning and shedding some light in terms of that alarming study that's come out from the University of Johannesburg. South African Democratic Teachers Union's Mungwena Maluleke giving us the latest on that.